hope you will be all fine. My dear friends, today I am going to tell you a story about birth of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, episode 12, the trip to Taif. Once upon a time ago, our story began. But before we go on, let's send salam on a final prophet, alayhi wassalatu wassalam, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. After the terrible boycott had failed, the evil kuffar began to think of other ways to hurt and annoy the Muslims so that they would leave Islam. Every day, the evil kuffar would think of new ways to hurt and annoy the Muslims so that they would leave Islam, but none of their ways worked. No matter what they did, the kuffar could not get people to stop listening to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Every day, more and more people would listen and believe that he was really a prophet sent by Allah. They would become Muslims, and the prophet would teach them to do good and to leave all that was bad. The kuffar were going crazy. They wanted to hurt Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and put an end to Islam. But they could not hurt Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam with Abu Talib around. Abu Talib was always defending and protecting the Prophet, and he held a high position in Mecca. He was one of the Prophet's greatest supporters. Khadija, who else supported the Prophet greatly. Khadija, the Prophet's wife, she had the greatest of manners, and she loved the Prophet and always comforted him and defended him. When the kuffar would try to hurt the Prophet, Khadija would tell him, "Don't be sad." She knew that he was a real prophet from Allah, and Allah would let him be the winner in the end. But after the boycott, Abu Talib and Khadija grew weaker and weaker. Abu Talib had grown very old too. He fell ill and then passed away. A little later, Khadija also grew sicker and sicker. Khadija passed away too. The Prophet used to love her so much. The Prophet was so very sad. But Jibreel came down to him and told him that Allah had built a beautiful house for Khadija in Jannah, more beautiful and more amazing than any home here on this earth. Still, the Prophet had lost the two closest people to him. It was a very hard time for the Prophet. This time came to be known as the year of grief. Meanwhile, the kuffar were very happy. Now that Muhammad is alone and Abu Talib is not around, we can finally hurt Prophet Muhammad and end Islam, they said. They began to be very mean to the Prophet and hurt him in different ways. Mecca to Taif. When things got very bad, the Prophet decided to try and go outside of Mecca and find help. He decided to go to Taif, a city near Mecca. The Prophet thought he could teach the people of Taif about Allah and Islam. Maybe, just maybe, they would become Muslim and all the Muslims could live in Taif safely. So Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam walked with a young boy named Zaid bin Haritha to Taif and tried to ask for help. Zaid loved the Prophet so much. He was the Prophet's helper and servant. During this time, Taif had three main chiefs or leaders. The Prophet went to them and told them that he was a prophet and that they had to worship Allah alone. Allah! He told them that idols were made of rocks and could not hear or talk or do anything, and that they should leave the idols. But the three chiefs turned out to be very bad. They refused to listen to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam or give him a real chance to explain anything. They said that even if he were the prophet Allah had chosen, they would still not talk to him. So then Prophet Muhammad ﷺ asked one last thing. He said, "Okay, but please don't tell the kuffar in Mecca I came here." But they said, "No, we will tell them." Then those chiefs, whose hearts were very bad and full of evil, called the young children of the tribe to throw stones at the Prophet and drive him out of the city. These chiefs were very bad. Allah will punish the chiefs because they heard the Prophet and refused to listen to him. The Prophet and Zaid used to run away quickly. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ's legs got hurt and Zaid's head got hurt. Then the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and Zaid found a garden. The garden was filled with grapes. They hid in the garden, and the bad children who had been throwing the stones could not find them there. Tired and hurt, the Prophet sat under a tree of grapes. He said and made dua to Allah. He told what it means. "O Allah, I am weak without you. O Allah, do not leave me alone. O Allah, the most important thing is to me is that you are not angry with me and that you are pleased with me." He sat and prayed to Allah for a long time. The garden belonged to two men. They saw the Prophet sitting down and they felt bad for him. They sent their young servant, whose name was Adas, with a plate of grapes. Adas was a Christian boy. Before Prophet Muhammad began to eat, he said, "Bismillah, in the name of God." The servant was surprised. "That sounds beautiful, but what does that mean? Nobody in this area says that." "What are you from and what religion do you follow?" "I'm Christian and I'm from Nineveh. You are from the land of prophet called Yunus bin Matta." "Yes, I am, but how do you know Yunus?" "Yunus was a prophet and I am also a prophet from Allah." When Adas realized Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was a prophet, he kissed the Prophet's hand and then kissed the Prophet's hurt feet. Meanwhile, the two owners of the garden saw that was happening. They saw Adas kiss the Prophet's feet. One of them looked at the other and said, "This man has ruined our servant." As soon as Adas came back to them, one of the owners said, "Master, there is no one greater than that man on this earth. That man told me things nobody could know but a prophet of God." "What's happened to you, Adas? That man better not make you change your religion and convert to his religion." After a while, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and Zaid then continued on Mecca. But before they reached Mecca, the angel Jibril came down to them. Jibril said, "Allah has heard how the kuffar responded to you. Allah has sent me another angel. If you want, we can make the mountains fall down on the kuffar who hurt you." But Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, "No, even if they hurt me, maybe one day Allah will let their children be good Muslims who worship Allah alone." Right before Prophet Muhammad ﷺ entered Mecca, he stopped. Zayd asked him, "How are we going to enter Mecca again when the kuffar did everything they could to kick us out?" The Prophet said, "What is meant? Zayd, every difficulty that you see right now, Allah will get us out of it. Allah will grant victory, His religion and His Prophet." Prophet Muhammad ﷺ then stood outside and called for Mu'tim bin Uday. Mu'tim was not a Muslim, but he was not of the evil kuffar who tried to hurt the Prophet. He asked Mu'tim if Mu'tim would grant him protection. Mu'tim agreed to protect the Prophet and promised he would not let anyone harm him. "Okay." Mu'tim called all of his children and told them to come out with their weapons so that they could protect the Prophet and nobody would harm him. And so, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ entered Mecca safely. He went to the Kaaba and prayed here safely. Then he went to his home. The kuffar were furious, but they could do nothing about it. Till next time.